I used to go to the movies, and I would see the newsreels. And here I am in the National Guard, wearing a World War I uniform with wrap leggings. And old vintage, World War I vintage uniforms. And we looked so sloppy, so terrible. And I see these Germans goose-stepping, you know, with all this armor behind them and everything. I said, how in the hell are we going to face these guys, you know? But it took 2 years of training to get me psychologically, mentally fitted to face them. And then when I faced my first German at Salerno, and he crawfished on me, I said, wow, they're just like anybody else.
The 12th December, the 1st Battalion, Infantry Division, find, destroy life in narrow trenches, caves.
My name is Alfred Dietrick. My actual unit was Company B, 141st Infantry. My job as an infantryman was platoon sergeant. The major campaigns and battles that I was in began with this invasion of Italy at Salerno on September the 9th, 1943, followed by the battles in the Lear Valley, the battle for 1205, and which overlooked San Pietro, followed up into the Repeater River. This is the location where we landed. We ran off the beach so fast, I don't think anybody was on it more than 10 seconds. When we hit the beach and got across it, we regrouped. We tried to get our platoon together. That's what we were concerned about. We weren't concerned about the rest of the company, just our platoon. And once we got them all together, then we proceeded to move in. At the break of dawn, we began to hear the German panzer divisions in the distance. And right away we were told to dig into a defensive position. There was an explosion to my left. And I cringed over as I heard it, and I looked over to my left where Frank Miller from New York was slumped over. Right away, I assumed he was dead, and then I said to myself, I said, well, there got to be some more Germans right around here. He's not alone. As I looked up, a German jumped out of the brush and faced me. But as I saw him coming out of the brush, I dropped Miller immediately. And when I did, I threw my gun to my hip, still in the kneeling position, and I started firing at this German from my hip. When he saw me move, I don't know why, but he evidently felt that I had the drop on him, and he started to withdraw back into the brush, and he fell as he neared the brush. I don't know if I killed him or wounded him, but it appeared that he was out of commission. Then with that, I heard my name called. Sergeant Dietrick, rocket launcher, tanks. I ran in the direction of the voice, and there was a platoon sergeant standing there and firing his Thompson machine gun at a Mark IV tank. The tank was not more than 100 feet from him. I took position right behind a small rock fence wall, and it was about 3 feet high. I fired at the tank, and I hit him between the rear two bogies. The engine went out. So I hollered to my ammo loader, reload! No response. I turned around, and Maslow was not there. And then at that point, the platoon sergeant dropped his Thompson machine gun. He just threw it to the ground because he'd run out of ammo. So he threw it and started running. He said, let's get the hell out of here, Al. And he took off, and I took off after him because there were no other GIs around. I was alone. So I'm running about 10 feet behind him, and the gunner in the Mark IV tank I had disabled opened up on us. And I could see the tracers coming between our legs and on each side of us as he traversed his gun. And I just prayed right there, and I said to myself, well, this is the end of the war for you, Al. This is it. You're going to drop. And when I thought that, Whitaker, the platoon sergeant, dropped. And he hollered at me to help him as I ran by him. But I'd have been Swiss cheese if I'd have stopped. There was an aqueduct, a canal, irrigation canal. I jumped over it, got on the other side, and sure enough, there was the rest of the company back there. Then I looked to my right, and there was a naval crew. And they had a communications with one of the warships in the bay. In less than 10 seconds that I saw them, they called fire on the 3 tanks in front of us. What it sounded like as it came over our heads, it sounded like music to me, really. And when those tank crews felt the ground shake under them, they wheeled around the 2 live tanks and headed for the ravines and out of sight. And that's basically what happened to our organization the first day. My platoon, the 3rd Platoon of B Company, 141st, was located at the end of the road that you see, that gravel strip. And right there is a bend of the road that goes, a horseshoe bend that goes around that black patch of forestry. And that is where we were located. And approximately right here where we're standing was a German machine gunner that fired sporadically, maybe every half hour, an hour, kept the troops awake, alerted them, and I think it was just harassing fire to keep us awake. We had a Lieutenant Tully from Chicago. He was my platoon leader. And one night he said, I'm going to go up there and get that son of a bitch. Huh? I said, huh? He says, yeah. He took a man with him and he crossed the highway and hit it up the slope. I said, be careful, don't make any noise. I knew he was going to make a lot of noise because of the rubble and rock that existed on this slope. And after about an hour, there was a machine gun opened up. I heard grenades going off. I said to myself, they heard the lieutenant. Another hour passed and he returned. He said, they heard me. I said, yes, I was well aware of that, I heard it. And he said, lift up my jacket. He says, I feel something sticking me in my back. And I did, and he had a piece of shrapnel stuck in the back of his, about 1/4 of an inch deep. And so I removed it and put a little sulfur powder on it in the patch. I said, well, you can go in the morning and get yourself a Purple Heart. Ah, hell with it, he said. Never did get a Purple Heart, so I never went for it. But later, in the invasion of southern France, he was hit in the leg and got his Purple Heart. It was Christmas Eve, and St. Pietro had already been taken, but there was a pocket of Germans holding Hill 730, and that was our mission, to attempt to drive them off. The order we received to take the Germans at, I think it was around 4 o'clock in the morning with fixed bayonets and don't fire a shot. And I didn't receive the order too well, but when I went back, I got my squad leaders together. I told them what the order was. I said, but my orders to you is fixed bayonets, have your rifles ready to fire, and fire at will if you have to. So we moved out towards the enemy. And it was no moonlight, just starlight. And the stars were out full that night. And but your eyes get adjusted to darkness, maximum darkness, you know, and we could see the silhouette of these hills where they were. And 30 men going up a rocky slope. They were going to make quite a bit of noise. And I knew they would hear us. Everybody knew it. And suddenly, the machine gun opened up. And as it was right over my head. Well, that didn't mean that everybody dropped. And I called the man with the rifle and the grenades. I told him, fire a grenade into that mound up there, because he was silhouetted against the skyline. And he said, but Sarge, he says, they'll know where we're at. Well, he had already fired at us, you know. He fired at us for about 15, 20 seconds and then let up. When he let up, I saw the mound where the fire was coming from. And I just says, give me a rifle. And I did it myself. And I hit him, and I thought about that later. I said, I'm glad I did it. I'm glad that, I mean, we were up there to fight. I mean, maybe we weren't going to be successful, but at least we caused some casualties on their part. You know, we hurt them. 2 nights before the crossing of the river, I brought a patrol around the foot of Mount Trochio. It was supposed to be a listening, a reconnaissance patrol. And as we approached the foot of the end of the mountain there, either we were under observation or it's just sporadic fire that happened, but it came in on us and the small patrol scattered for cover. I moved in one direction and stuck my foot into a crevice in the ground with my weight going forward, and I tore the ligaments in my left knee. I was evacuated to the 5th Evacuation Hospital near Pranzano and on back to the General Hospital in Naples. And after several weeks there, the medical officer says, your leg is gone as far as infantry is concerned. When I was at the hospital, the casualties began arriving from this crossing of the Rapido, and I saw 3 of my men there, and one of them said, Sarge, you're very lucky that you didn't try to make that crossing. He says, that you got hurt the way you did. You're very lucky. He says, it was terrible. They just couldn't say enough bad things about it, you know. And that's it. Anytime that I hear where a German unit got hit hard, suffered a lot of casualties, I feel good about it. Because every time we were in a scrap, most of the time we won or broke even. But I always felt that we got our butt kicked. Even if we won, we got our butt kicked because we always took casualties. We're an attacking force, and you always take casualties or higher, you know. So when I hear of any enemy unit that got hit hard, I loved it, you know. I thought, well, I'm glad somebody's kicking butt somewhere, you know. There was such a threat from the Axis powers on the world that men just came forward and just volunteered and went and did a job. And when you stop and think about it, you get drafted. You go get 8 weeks, 12 weeks basic training. I don't remember what it was. And then you're assigned to a combat unit. Within 3 months after the time you started your basic training, you're in combat. I think about a lot of them. They came to me. I started in '39. I had 2.5 years of training before I went into combat. But what about the guy that just had 3 months? He wasn't fully yet a military man, really, you know. He's still thinking about home. Maybe you were an office worker. Maybe you were a plumber. Maybe you were a lawyer. Whatever you were, you're from this to that. Something you never dreamed up in your life, you know, that you were going to have to be. And you went over there for 2, 3 years, 3.5 years, and you never came back until the fight was over. Never came back.